Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Reactor, and this is Quinn, and today's article comes from CNN.com and says, Trump says U.S. is ending decades-old nuclear arms treaty with Russia.
That does not sound good, Dave.
Well, he's got to do something to prove he's not a Russian spy.
Right.
President Donald Trump announced Saturday that the U.S. is pulling out of the landmark Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty with Russia, a decades-old agreement that has drawn the ire of the president. Yeah, so far, I don't know anything about this article, but yeah, it sounds ridiculous.
Yeah, it does.
Why cancel a nuclear treaty? You know, is that something we don't want?
I don't even know what the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty was, but it sounds like...
I think that was the one where we started dismantling our nukes, if they did.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of dismantling of nukes is good.
Yeah. Russia has violated the agreement. They've been violating it for many years, Trump told reporters before boarding Air Force One to leave Nevada following a campaign rally. Oh, okay, that makes sense then. If they're not following it, then what are we doing? You know? And I don't know why President Obama didn't negotiate or pull out, and we're not going to let them violate a nuclear agreement and go out and do weapons, and we're not allowed to, he said. We're the ones that have stayed in the agreement, and we've honored the agreement. But Russia has not, unfortunately, honored the agreement. So we're going to terminate the agreement. We're going to pull out, he said, of the agreement, which was signed in December 1987 by former President Ronald Reagan and former USSR President Mikhail Gorbachev.
So somebody showed Trump evidence that, hey, they're making nukes, and apparently the U.S. is not making them, which is bullshit. They're probably making them.
The treaty says
too.
we don't make them, and they're not supposed to either. But if they're not, I guess, yeah, we should be making
They both
them.
have been making nukes in
Yeah,
some
right.
sub-bunkers underground or some shit.
And doing experiments on human genetics,
and
too.
monkeys
making
and all
HIV
sorts of
and-
weird shit.
Yeah. The treaty forced both companies, basically, right?
Basically.
The treaty forced both countries to eliminate ground-launched ballistic and cruise missiles with ranges between approximately 300 and 3,400 miles. It offered a blanket of protection to the United States, European allies, and marked a watershed agreement between two nations at the center of the arms race during the Cold War. Former State Department spokesman Rear Admiral John Kirby, a CNN military and diplomatic analyst, explained that the treaty wasn't designed to solve all of our problems with the Soviet Union, but was designed to provide a measure of some strategic stability on the continent of Europe. It was to make it so that hey, stop aiming nukes at Europe, guys. Come on.
Right.
I suspect our European allies right now are none too happy about hearing that President Trump intends to pull out of it, he said. Yeah, well, sorry, guys. Why leave the agreement now? The Trump administration has said repeatedly that Russia has violated the treaty and has pointed to their predecessors in the Obama administration who accused Russia of violating the terms of the agreement. In 2014, CNN reported that the U.S. had accused Russia of violating the INF Treaty, citing cruise missiles tests that dated to 2008. CNN reported in 2014 that the United States at the time informed its NATO allies of Russia's suspected breach. However, it wasn't until recently that NATO officially confirmed Russia's activity constituted a likely violation. NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said earlier this month that the military alliance remained concerned about Russia's lack of respect for its international commitments, including the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, the INF Treaty. This treaty abolishes a whole category of weapons and is a crucial element of our security, Stoltenberg said. Speaking at a defense ministers' meeting, now this treaty is in danger because of Russian actions. He continued, after years of denials, Russia recently acknowledged the existence of a new missile system called 9M729. Russia has not provided any credible answers on this new missile. So they're maybe not nukes. Or are they making did they invent a new nuke? God help us.
Right.
All allies agree that the most plausible assessment would be that Russia is in violation of the treaty. It is therefore urgent that Russia addresses these concerns in a substantial and transparent manner. Moscow's failure to adhere to the agreement was also addressed in the most recent nuclear posture review published by the Defense Department in February, which said Russia continues to violate a series of arms control treaties and commitments. This article just seems to be repeating itself a lot, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of reiteration.
I feel like that happens a lot in articles we read, right?
Yeah.
In a broader context, Russia is either rejecting or avoiding its obligations and commitments under numerous agreements and has rebuffed U.S. efforts to follow the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, START, with another round of negotiated reductions and to pursue reductions in non-strategic nuclear forces. Okay. What does this mean for U.S. security? Pulling out of the treaty could provoke a similar arms race across Europe akin to the one that was occurring when the agreement was initially signed in the 1980s. I don't think we're at the stage right now that if we pull out of the INF treaty, you've got to go start and build a bunker in your backyard, Kirby said. I don't think we're at that stage at all, he said. But I do think if we pull out, we really do need to think about how we're going to right now, because we don't have the same capability as the Russians have with this particular missile. How are we going to try and counter that? How are we going to try and help deter use of it on the continent of Europe? I think for the most part, Russia's not going to launch missiles at other countries, you know?
Right.
I mean, they could. I'm not saying they can't. But for the most part...
And stop trying to scare other countries and saying Russia has this super nuke that can just blow everybody up. And
Europe's in trouble. Europe's in trouble. We got to do something about Russia. They're going to hack the election and launch missiles. How does China work in all of this? Administration officials believe the treaty has put the U.S. at a disadvantage because China does not face any constraints on developing intermediate-range nuclear missiles in the Pacific, and it does not allow the U.S. to develop new weapons. So Russia and the U.S. are stuck here. Meanwhile, Russia's breaking the treaty, but I would bet Russia is breaking the treaty because they're like, well, China's right next to us, building these missiles. Sorry about your treaty, U.S. We're not going to do anything to you, but we have to build weapons because our next door neighbor is doing it.
Right.
If your next door neighbor starts stockpiling guns just because you have a truce with your neighbor across the street, doesn't mean you're safe.
Yeah, and it's like, what happened to all the weapons that Russia had manufactured before, before they started selling? What happened when they sold off a lot of their ordnance, their military?
They sold them all to the Middle East, probably. I know, like during Afghanistan and all that.
Right.
Administration officials believe the treaty has put the U.S. in advantage. China does not face, blah, blah, blah. Trump, speaking with reporters on Saturday, referenced China when explaining his reasoning for pulling out of the agreement. Unless Russia comes to us and China comes to us and they all come to us and say, let's really get smart and let's none of us develop those weapons. But if Russia is doing it and if China is doing it and we're adhering to the agreement, that's unacceptable, Trump said. I have to agree with him. I have to agree. What else is there to do? Be the good guy sitting there with, all right, guns are illegal, I'm not going to have one. Meanwhile, your whole neighborhood is arming themselves. Hey, it's illegal though.
I would think you'd want to build a missile that would shoot their missile out of the sky. Like, it wasn't meant to shoot people or countries, but it's meant to shoot missiles.
That's why we need a base on the moon.
That's why we need a lot of bases that will shoot missiles. And that's, defense.
If we put
that's what
nukes,
it's supposed to be. They call it defense, but it's always about blowing somebody else's house up. It's like,
you're right.
Let's defend. Let's defend shit.
Anyway, in 2017, the head of the U.S. Pacific Command, Admiral Harry Harris, what a weird name, told Congress that approximately 95% of China's missile force would violate the INF Treaty if they were part of the agreement. Woo! This fact is significant because the U.S. has no comparable capability due to our adherence to the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty with Russia, Harris said in a statement to the Senate Armed Services Committee. Yeah, so Russia's already out of it. Or, Russia's not breaking the rules, I don't think, because they're jerks. I feel like they're next to China and they have to deal with it. Right?
Right.
They would be fools not to have equal power as China.
They're fools for not teaming up, because if they did...
They do team up.
If they completely,
BRICS.
100% early Avengers teamed up.
No, that's
even
what BRICS is. That's World War III is going to be NATO versus BRICS.
It's going to be
NATO
terrible.
is Europe and America, and Canada probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
But BRICS is, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and S is something else. Might be Saudi Arabia.
Syria?
No,
not Syria.
Doesn't have anything.
Right.
Administration officials will agree unless Russia comes to us in 2017 ahead of the Pacific. Where am I?
2017.
Yeah. Oh, no. The fact is significant because the U.S. has no compare. Oh, I already read that too. Oh, it's because I accidentally jumped up. National Security Advisor John Bolton is expected to discuss the treaty with Russian officials on his trip to Moscow next week. Kirby said he thinks the Russians will be okay with the decision. Because I don't think they want to be in it. This gives Putin an excuse to just continue doing what he's doing, only doing it more blatantly, Kirby said. Outspoken Russian Senator Alexei Pushkov tweeted Sunday that the United States is bringing the world back to the Cold War in reaction to Trump's decision, which he called a massive blow to the entire system of strategic stability in the world. Well, that's weird. Right?
Right.
So he's going to start talking crap, but they're already doing it. Senior Russian lawmaker Konstantin Kosachev warned on his Facebook page that the consequences would be truly catastrophic. However, he said it's not official that the U.S. has pulled out of the INF, saying it's still possible to consider Trump's statement as continuous blackmail rather than a completed legal act. Correction, the story was updated to fix the spelling of Mikhail Gorbachev.
I know, I'm always looking for like some other weird thing that's going on with these stories, and I think that it's like you get people upset and they need to start making weapons. It makes somebody profit. So it's like Trump's decision could be profiting people that are making new warheads and nukes and stuff and obtaining uranium and whatever else.
Every political decision brings profits.
Right. Everything's for money. It's just
even the ones that you wouldn't think you could profit off of, you can still profit off them.
Right.
Whether it's just like going to the stock market and profiting in that way, or actually selling arms to countries,
Right.
Yeah. So one thing that I find weird is that these Russian senators and lawmakers are saying the U.S. is being foolish if we leave it, this agreement, when supposedly Russia's already doing it. But then again, this is CNN, so CNN was a big pusher of the WMDs in Iraq,
And if we've learned anything, it's that all the media constantly wants to try to make you scared about something. Mm-hmm. Like the first thing they mention is this giant super whatever weapon that's gonna, kill everyone in one go.
Uh-huh. Putin's building a death ray,
right.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way we could fight against it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it does seem like a scaremongering piece. And I'm actually starting to question whether or not CNN is correct about Russia having nukes or building a bunch of weapons. Where do they get this information?
Right, we don't even really know.
Yeah, CNN is not exactly the most accurate journalism. You have anything else you want to say?
No.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say. Okay, so I guess, in my opinion, is if we leave this treaty, I really don't care.
For real.
Yeah, it's whatever. It's nothing compared to the Cold War, I imagine, where they actually had nukes pointing at America. Right?
Right.
But that's it for the video. If you enjoyed it, let us know by leaving a comment or giving a thumbs up. And check out our Patreon link in the description if you want to help us. That would be awesome. Thanks for watching.